From playing games left-handed to nearly averaging a triple-double in the finals, Larry Bird's 1986 season wasn't just dominant, it was basketball perfection. He led one of the greatest teams ever assembled to a 67-15 record, grabbing his third straight MVP and capped it off with a finals MVP. But the stats don't tell the whole story. This is about the moments that made a myth.
Ball away. Then quickly. First jumper. Good. Larry, a little fake down the lane. Between the legs to Roby. He has Bird.
The case for Larry Bird's 1986 season being one of the greatest in NBA history starts with a simple truth. He was the best player on one of the most dominant basketball teams ever assembled. Bird led the Celtics to a 67-win regular season and a near-flawless 15-3 rampage through the playoffs. Bird's traditional stats weren't the flashiest of his career. 25.8 points, 9.8 rebounds, and 6.8 assists per game. But here's what made it special. He shot 49.6% from the field, 89.6% from the line, and his team outscored opponents by 9.4 points per game. When the playoffs arrived, Larry shifted into another gear entirely. He shot 53.8% from 2, 41% from 3, and an absurd 92.7% from the line. The beauty of Bird's 86 season? He didn't need to carry the load every night because his team was historically great. This Celtics squad had a real claim to being the greatest team ever assembled. The Steph Durant Warriors might have something to say, but even they have to look over their shoulder. The roster tells a story. 4 Hall of Famers in the starting lineup: Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and Dennis Johnson. Coming off the bench, 6th Man of the Year, Bill Walton, another Hall of Famer. Rounded out with elite role players like Danny Ainge, Jerry Sitching, and Scott Wedman, legends in Boston in their own right. That's not just depth, that's an embarrassment of riches. Coming into the season, Bird was already a legend. 2 championships, 2 MVPs, and a rivalry with Magic that defined the NBA. But losing to the Lakers in the 1985 finals ate him up. "I played terrible," Bird said later. "I couldn't wait for the season to start." That hunger would fuel one of the most dominant seasons in basketball history. Boston added Bill Walton that year, and he turned out to be the perfect piece, earning 6th Man of the Year honors and giving the Celtics a front court rotation of Bird, McHale, Parrish, Walton. That might be the greatest ever. Bird was in his bag all season. He famously trash-talked Hakeem Olajuwon at the All-Star game, won the first ever three-point shootout, and was recognized as the most valuable player in the NBA regular season. In doing so, he became just the 3rd player in NBA history, after Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, to win 3 MVPs in a row. But Bird wasn't just filling the stat sheet. He was controlling games, rebounding, playmaking, dictating tempo, all with surgical precision. His feel, grit, and basketball IQ turned every game into a masterclass. In 1986, Bird wasn't just the best player in the world, he redefined what greatness looked like. And he lifted his team to basketball immortality in the process. But MVPs only tell part of the story. Legends are made in moments, and Bird's 1986, it was full of them. Of all of Bird's legendary moments in 1986, one stands above the rest as pure basketball mythology. Larry Bird's legendary left-handed game against the Portland Trail Blazers. It's up there with Jordan's flu game. The story goes that Bird got so bored beating opponents with his dominant hand, he decided to switch things up for fun. When asked why he kept going to his left during Boston's 120-119 overtime win in Portland on February 14, 1986, Bird gave the perfect answer. "I'm saving my right hand for the Lakers," he told the Boston Globe. And the wild part? Even if he'd used only his right hand, the stat line would have still been absurd. 47 points, 14 rebounds, 11 assists, triple-double, on the road, no Kevin McHale, and against a solid playoff team. At that point in the season, Boston had already won 14 of its last 15 games, even with McHale missing 9 of them. That's how dominant the '86 Celtics were. But Bird made sure this one stood out. It was his second straight triple-double, and while he didn't go full lefty all night, he did make 10 of his 21 field goals with his offhand, including a series of wild buckets in crunch time. To be clear, he scored only 20 of his 47 points with his left hand. Still rare, still incredible. His most outrageous stretch came with the game on the line in the fourth quarter. 5 possessions of left-handed wizardry that may never be matched. First, he faked out one defender, avoided another in transition, and casually tossed in a lefty floater off the glass. Then, after a Blazers 3 cut the lead in half, Bird broke out a left-handed hook shot that would get most other players benched on the spot. And finally, with Portland cutting the lead to 1, Bird reached lefty heaven with this and one. It's also worth remembering, this was the second night of a back-to-back in the middle of a brutal 7-game road trip, grind that no longer exists in today's NBA. Bird had dropped 31 points, 15 boards, and 11 assists the night before against the Kings, and then torched the Blazers with his offhand. But it wasn't just the wins that made Bird's 1986 so iconic. He was putting on clinics, even in losses. Take his 50-point masterpiece against the Mavericks on March 10. Bird lit up Dallas every way imaginable. Off pick and rolls as a ball handler, off putbacks, in the post and spotting up. It was all there. He logged 40 minutes and racked up 50 points on 18 made field goals, including 4 of 7 from deep and 10 of 11 from the line. He added 11 rebounds and 5 assists for good measure. The Celtics built a 104-91 lead after Bird dropped 17 in the third quarter, but Dallas mounted a comeback, eventually pulling ahead 111-110 and holding on late to seal the win. The Mavs were a solid team at the time, but Boston had bigger goals. With 67 wins and the league's best record, the Celtics weren't sweating one spoiled night. They had their sights firmly locked on the playoffs and a path back to the championship. Bird came into the postseason oozing confidence. There may be teams in the league that can beat us 4 straight, but I've yet to see one. Another stone-cold one-liner from one of the game's greatest trash talkers. But Bird wasn't just talking, he was warning the league, and Chicago was about to find out. The Celtics swept the Bulls in the first round, despite a 63-point explosion from a young Michael Jordan in Game 2. Bird cruised through the series, averaging 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists on his usual brutally efficient shooting. He even threw a jab at the future GOAT while they were on the court. When Jordan tried to guard him in the post, Bird reportedly said, "What are you doing? You better get out of here. Get back out on that perimeter." After starting the playoffs with 6 straight wins, 3 against Chicago and 3 more over Atlanta, the Celtics was steamrolling. Larry was locked in, and so was the team. They were on a mission. No NBA team had ever come back from a 0-3 deficit, and the Hawks star, Dominique Wilkins, gave it everything he had. But the human highlight film lacked the supporting cast needed to keep up. Even he admitted, they are beatable, but you have to play 48 minutes and not 47 or 46. You have to play the entire game. The Hawks managed to stave off elimination with a Game 4 win, 106-94, but that only delayed the inevitable. Boston came back in Game 5 and demolished them, 132-99. A beatdown that reminded everyone just how loaded this Celtics team was. Next up was Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals. And another sweep. Few of Bird's highlights are more fun to watch than his triple-double in Game 3 of that series, on May 17. Bird dropped 19 points, 16 rebounds, and 13 assists, and flexed every ounce of his court vision and passing creativity. Now, how is this for a sequence? Bird dove for a loose ball, passed from the floor to McHale, then followed it up with an over-the-shoulder dime to Parrish and a slick tip pass to McHale. The Celtics' ball movement in that game, poetry in motion. Bird wasn't just a scorer, he was the conductor. His unselfish play elevated everyone, from starters to the bench. He embodied team-first basketball while being the best on the court. Of course, Larry's clutch shooting was there too. He gave Boston its first lead with a late jumper, then iced the game with a dagger three-pointer to put them up by 10 with just over 2 minutes left. The Celtics were unbeatable, and Bird was the soul of it. Their dominance wasn't just physical, it was mental, tactical, and cultural, and it all stemmed from him. The Eastern Conference sweep set the stage for the final challenge, the NBA Finals against the young and athletic Houston Rockets, led by the Twin Towers, Hakeem Olajuwon, and 7'4" Ralph Sampson. Houston wasn't unfamiliar to Boston. Their head coach, Bill Fitch, had been Bird's first NBA coach, and the man who helped him win his first ring in 1981. While Fitch's grueling drill sergeant style eventually wore out most of the Celtics, Bird remained loyal, once calling him by far the best coach I've ever seen. So when the Celtics faced Fitch's Rockets in the finals, Bird took it personally. Then Houston gave him even more fuel for the fire. Before Game 1, Olajuwon, who was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, made headlines by saying, "I know nothing of this tradition. I'm not from around here." Hakeem was referencing the Celtics' past NBA championships and the history of greatness. Bird fired right back. We'd like to give him a 2-week history lesson, and he did just that. Boston dominated from the start, taking the first 2 games at home by 12 and 22 points. The series shifted to Houston, where the Rockets finally showed signs of life. Game 3 was a nail-biter that Houston squeezed out 106-104, but just when it looked like momentum might be turning, Boston responded with championship-level resolve. They gutted out a 106-103 win in Game 4, handing the Rockets their first and only home loss the entire playoffs, and seizing a commanding 3-1 series lead. Houston managed to bounce back and take Game 5, 111-96, but then the series returned to Boston for Game 6. The Celtics saved their most complete performance for last. Every starter scored in double digits. Walton dominated off the bench with 10 points and 8 rebounds in just 17 minutes. Houston's late 13-6 run in garbage time made the final score look respectable, but this was a blowout from the opening tip. Boston had pulled their starters with the game already decided. The series showcased 2 dominant big men. McHale was unstoppable, averaging 25.8 points on 57% shooting, plus 8.5 rebounds and 2.5 blocks. He thoroughly outplayed Ralph Sampson, who managed just 14.8 points on 44% shooting. Some argued McHale deserved Finals MVP, but Bird was still the maestro. His Finals numbers told the story. 24 points, 9.7 rebounds, and 9.5 assists per game. Nearly a triple-double average against the league's best defensive front court. He was surgical from the line, hitting 31 of 33 free throws. He led both teams with 16 steals, and when it mattered most, he delivered 2 triple-doubles, including a 29-point, 11-rebound, 12-assist, 3-steal masterpiece in the Game 6 clincher. The final score said it all. Boston's starting 5 outscored the entire Rockets team 98-97 in a 114-97 victory. It was the perfect ending to a perfect season, and as fate would have it, the last championship banner that would ever be raised at the old Boston Garden. So, what's it like to get dismantled by a basketball genius? Rockets forward Jim Patterson put it best. "I've never seen anyone who could demoralize a whole team like he can. It's like he doesn't even need his teammates. It's just him, 1-on-5, and he almost beats you single-handedly. It's the way he does it. Offensive rebound, go right to the corner, 3-point shot, nothing but net. He gets you down and then breaks your back." Bird had plenty of legendary performances during his Hall of Fame career, but maybe none more complete or more important than that Game 6. Even Bird himself admitted, "That was the only game I was totally prepared for. As far as focus was concerned, none better. Never. I should have quit right there." The dominant Game 6 win capped off a 15-3 postseason run for Boston. The Celtics went a perfect 10-0 at home during the playoffs, with their closest call coming in that legendary 135-131 double overtime win over Chicago in Game 2 of the opening round. The same thriller where Michael Jordan dropped a playoff record 63 points and still lost. Larry Bird has often said that the 1985-86 Celtics were the best team he's ever been a part of. And this is a guy who spent over 4 decades around the NBA. 4 of the 5 starters from that squad are in the Hall of Fame, and the 5th, Danny Ainge, was an all-star. 6th Man of the Year, Bill Walton, was no slouch either. A former regular season and finals MVP, Walton was already a Hall of Fame lock before suiting up in the green and white. Bird, Walton, McHale, and Parrish all made the NBA's 50 greatest players list in 1997, with Dennis Johnson not far behind. Even future greats were in awe of what they saw. After Boston dispatched Houston in the finals, Rockets center Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the best to ever play the game, summed it up simply: Larry Bird was the best all-round player I've ever seen. That meant a lot coming from the Dream himself, and it's hard to argue with that statement. Larry Bird's 1986 season wasn't just a peak, it was a blueprint for what greatness looks like, for how legends are made. If you think that was incredible, click the next video to see how Michael Jordan became a basketball god. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more Throwback Hoops. See you in the next one.